There are a huge number of games currently being designed and released by small developers nowadays. So many of these games are inspired by or are spiritual successors to already popular games. It's becoming hard to find games with genuinely revolutionary types of gameplay for players to experience. Many developers are trying to tackle this by incorporating as many different styles as possible into their games to make them stand out. The Witness throws this out the window entirely by focusing on as few styles as possible and mastering the ones it does use, which is in a way the best answer to this problem. On its surface, the Witness is made up of several sets of increasingly complex maze-like puzzles. These are completed using the mouse cursor. Each set is usually joined up by circuits, and each completed puzzle completes more of the circuit. Once the circuit is complete, it usually opens a door to more puzzles or sets off a laser beam that marks this area as complete. So we have maze puzzles and circuits that join the mazes. Gameplay-wise, these are the only mechanics in the game, yet the Witness takes these two simple aspects and explores them as far as they can possibly go. And within a few minutes they get so difficult you'll be wondering if the puzzle is actually possible without a special item or something. Almost every puzzle in the game is a lesson on how to complete a different, more complex puzzle. You see, there are two ways to teach a player how to play a game. One is to tell them what to do in each possible scenario using text boxes or tutorials. The other is to present them with problems that they solve on their own, starting with the most simple as possible, which then gets more complex, so they learn as they play. The second is better because the lessons can be built into the game world itself and doesn't break up the flow of the game. All achievements are now entirely down to the player's own decisions. This results in a much more satisfying experience for the player. Game designers tend to put written tutorials in games because they have less faith in the players working things out for themselves, or because they possibly lack the skill to implement level design that is both a lesson while being gameplay. I can assure you now that the Witness has a lot of faith in us. It uses this mechanic of teaching us so effectively and so often that the player never needs to be told anything outright. You can solve extremely difficult puzzles without any specific tutorial whatsoever. In this game, knowledge is like a power-up that lets you solve new puzzles, and as a result you get to see new content and areas. You can compare this kind of game design to the newer Castlevania or the Metroid games, where you have certain areas that are blocked off and you need to level up or find a specific item to continue. In The Witness, you need to explore the game's open world to find new lessons to help you open the harder puzzles. It is an interesting take on level design that is being lost to RPGs. In an RPG, experience is not what you know as a player, but instead how strong your character is. It goes to show that you don't need to invent a particularly complex gameplay mechanic to create unique and engaging experiences. Here the Witness just trusts us to learn and use what we've learned. The Witness steadily combines a number of simple principles throughout the game to make puzzles increasingly complex. It is never about just getting from the start of the maze to the end. In the first hour, the game seamlessly introduces parameters like covering diamonds on your route, using different colours of lines, disappearing lines, using mirrors, and countless other mechanics which relentlessly appear one after the other. The sheer level of imagination and ingenuity being shown here is almost never ending. The most impressive are the puzzles that use the environment around you. For example here, an early puzzle sees a series of branches that can be solved using the trees behind each puzzle. These trees have the same design as the maze on the screen. In this case, you take the route through the maze that would theoretically lead to the apple on the tree. This teaches you that the puzzles with no obvious solution in the maze itself can be solved using the environment. Later on in the game you find a similar puzzle with no obvious solution. You now know from before that you can look around for the answer to this kind of puzzle. However, after looking around, there is nothing around here that is the same shape or size as the maze. The maze does, however, have a light shining on it. This stands out as it is the only puzzle to do this. You then have to use this fact, and the fact that the answer is most likely in the environment, to work out that the route can be seen when you are positioned in such a way that the sun is reflecting off the panel. This kind of organic problem solving is all possible because of the way the game structures its lessons, as well as the open-ended nature of the world. After you solve the first puzzle in the game, there are numerous paths that you can go down. This lends itself to the puzzle-solving nature of the game. It's entirely possible to find puzzles that are too difficult for you to do until you learn some lessons elsewhere. If the game had been linear, this would have taken a lot of the fun out of solving puzzles. You would have always already learnt the lesson you needed for any puzzle. The open-ended nature puts doubt in your mind as to whether or not you actually have enough information to solve a specific puzzle, but also drives you to explore more to make sure that you can find the lesson you need. Most of the game's charm comes from the world around you, which is nothing short of stunning. Almost everything uses soft lighting and intense colours that makes the world all the more appealing. Most impressive is the conjoined nature of the world. That is to say, everything you can see, you can also explore. If you see a castle or an area that is particularly interesting and you want to go there, you can. But usually you have to solve puzzles to open up the area. So other than the fun of actually solving the puzzles, you also get the extra incentive of it meaning that you can see more of the stunning map. The puzzle screens themselves are also the only technology you really see on the island. Most of the other visuals are just natural geography with plants and trees and mountains and beaches. As a result, it comes across like the island is a puzzle itself trying to hide something, and the key to unlocking the island is in these computer screens. It makes the exploration into the island's depths all the more interesting to the player. The sound design is implemented purely to immerse the player on the island, with no music whatsoever. There is also no sound of wildlife, which is weird because there's so many plants and trees. It paints quite an uncanny feeling, adding to the theory that this island is probably hiding something. The game is eerily quiet, with the only sound being the humming of the machines around you, your footsteps, and the wind. It feels somewhat similar to the testing facility in the Portal games. It all adds up to make the player feel very confused about where they actually are. What little sound there is also adds a lot of tension when completing puzzles. Any mistake the player makes when solving a puzzle results in a very bassy, piercing sound which is unlike any other sound you hear in the game. This memorable sound gets planted in your mind and you anticipate it each time you're about to complete a puzzle. It acts as an incentive itself to make you avoid wanting to make a mistake. Overall, The Witness is an exercise in doing a few things very well. The simple mechanics in the game has allowed the developer to focus on implementing as many new puzzle-solving scenarios as possible to keep the game fresh. I like this style of game design, and I believe it will continue to be more prominent as smaller developers start to focus on more simple but polished experiences. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, you can click here to subscribe. And if you want to support my videos by donating, I have a Patreon site here. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.